who it was, she smiled and walked towards him. The bus wasn't due for another hour. She had time. Soon she was ensconced in a comfy armchair, knees drawn up under her, a warm mug of hot chocolate clasped in her hands. As she poured out her woes, he leaned forward attentively. The drink was comforting, strong and sweet. She paused. She didn't feel so good. Her eyes couldn't focus. She struggled to stand up, but her legs wouldn't support her, and she collapsed back onto the chair. Alarmed now, her heart flopped in an irregular rhythm as she tried to make sense of what was happening to her. "Help me," she whispered, looking up at him. This couldn't be happening. She didn't understand. He remained where he was, a creeping malevolence revealing itself to her. She was on the verge of losing consciousness when he picked up her unresisting body and carried her into another room. He laid her on a thick plastic sheet. A last tear tipped from her eyes. She would never see her home again. Chapter 1. 7th January 2013. D.I. Frank Farrell glanced across at Vary as the police car slid and bumped its way along an icy farm track towards a small stone-washed cottage. It was 10:10 a.m., and the sky was bright with a pale wintry sun. A young police officer who worked out of Kirkcudbright stood in front of the blue and white tape and walked towards them as they parked alongside the Socko van. Farrell exited the car with a feeling of dread in his stomach. In his time as a practicing Catholic priest, suicides in particular always had a profound effect on him. The thought that someone might be driven to die at their own hand was unfathomable. "Socko nearly done in there, PC McGee." "Yes, sir. They reckon it's fairly cut and dried. The police surgeon is in there too. Didn't exactly have to look for a pulse. Blood and brains everywhere." Farrell quelled him with a look. "Do we know the name of the deceased yet?" "Monroe Stevenson, according to the opened mail, sir." Silently, Vary and Farrell suited up in their protective plastic coveralls and overshoes. Even if it was suicide, care had to be taken not to contaminate the scene, just in case. "Right, let's get this over with," said Farrell. He opened the door and entered with Vary. A middle-aged man in a tweed jacket and cords was packing away his stethoscope in a brown leather satchel in the hall. He straightened up as they approached. Farrell noticed that he had an unhealthy greyish tinge to his face and that his hands were shaking. "Morning, Doctor. D.I. Farrell and D.C. MacLeod." "Dr. Allison. Cause appears to be suicide. A terrible business," he said. "Patient of mine, as it turns out. He was only 27. "It must be difficult when you know the deceased," said Vary. "Yes. If only he had come to me, I could have got him some help. Anything to avoid this," he said, gesturing towards the other room. "Any chance you can give us an indication of the time of death?" asked Farrell. "Well, as you know, my role here is restricted to pronouncing life extinct. However, given that rigour is at its peak, I would hazard a guess, strictly off the record, that he died somewhere around 15 hours ago. However, you'll need to wait for the preliminary findings from the pathologist for any degree of certainty." "Thanks, Doctor," said Farrell. "I appreciate the heads up." The doctor turned to leave. Farrell approached the two experienced scene-of-crime officers, Janet White and Phil Tate, who were gathering their stuff together at the rear of the hall. "Janet, what have you got for us?" "It looks like a suicide," she said. "Gun placed in the mouth and trigger pulled. We lifted prints from the gun. Gunshot residue on the right hand of the deceased matches that scenario." "There's a note," Phil said. "It's in a sealed envelope. We'll get you a copy once we've done the necessary checks back at the station. We've also removed the gun for ballistics analysis." "What was it?" "A PPK 380mm. We've recovered the bullet from the wall behind the chair." "How on earth did he get hold of one of those in this neck of the woods?" "Your guess is as good as mine," shrugged Phil. "A suicide note?" said Vary. "That means it's unlikely to be a murder." "Unless he was coerced, or it was staged," said Farrell. A thought occurred to him, and he popped his head out the front door. "PC McGee, were the lights on or off when you arrived at the scene?" "Off, sir," he answered. Everyone left but Farrell and MacLeod. They stood in the doorway to the sitting room. A malodorous smell hung in the air, the coppery scent of